Hey everyone, welcome to Defiance Daily. I'm Maritza Giorgio alongside Xander Schultz.
Hey,
Xander,
friends.
hey, it's been 1 year and 2 weeks since Elon Musk walked of Donald Trump's White House and effectively brought the Doge experiment to an end. It's hard to believe it.
Yay.
You remember the sales pitch, though, Xander. Elon and his
Yeah.
band of misfits were going to storm Washington. They were going to eliminate waste. They were going to root out corruption, put money back into the pockets of ordinary Americans. I think I even remember something about bonus checks that Elon Musk was floating. He was going to send us out bonus checks from all of this money that Doge was supposedly saving. I'm waiting for mine. How about you?
Nothing yet.
I haven't.
Nothing yet, but I will take no bonus check and no Elon if that's the trade-off.
Okay. So yeah, I'm still waiting for my check. If you have received your check out there, send us a note in the chat. If today's headlines, though, are any indication, the savings never came either, because today we're going to look at a Justice Department that's chasing an alleged Antifa conspiracy, a government that somehow found another $1 billion after spending a year telling us that the cupboards were bare, and a White House that's still treating taxpayer money like it's just found in the couch cushions. So in other words, 1 year after Doge supposedly cleaned up Washington, today's headlines make it look like the waste, fraud, and abuse survived just fine. We're going to get to all of it.
Well, Marisa, before we go in, we want to do one woosah, gang, because sometimes we're hitting you with a lot of tough news, and it's going to be all right. I was talking to pro-democracy leaders everywhere. People are kicking ass. I haven't seen a MAGA hat in weeks. I don't know about you, Marisa. MAGA hat population is way down out here in my neck of the woods, and we're going to be all right, gang, even though we're going to talk about hard stuff. You want to do one woosah with me? We're going to be all right, gang. All right. I'm ready to get into it now.
We need to do that. And I had a guest on our show this morning on Grounded with John Tester, and we had Justin Wolfers on, and he said at the end, we need to remember to look around and see the beauty and see the beautiful sunshine and look at the flowers and notice these things. So keep that in mind as we go into everything that we're going to talk about. And if you have blood pressure meds, maybe go grab those while we talk about
pop one or two of those too.
Pop one or two of those. I have, I've reverted back to my afternoon diet soda. Let's start with Minnesota here, my home state. This is where Trump's Justice Department held a press conference this morning. They announced what it clearly wanted to present as a major conspiracy case. Okay. Federal prosecutors unveiled a 94-page indictment charging 15 people from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in connection with the anti-ICE protests earlier this year. 12 people were arrested during Homeland Security raids this morning. One was already in custody. And according to U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen during a news conference this morning, 2 more remain at large, which is really charged language to be using right now at large. These are events that took place way earlier this year, like January and March. So let's go over the charges. Conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer, solicitation to commit a crime of violence, interstate stalking, assault on a federal office, and destruction of government property. So according to Rosen, the defendants were connected to Direct Action Minnesota. This is a group which Rosen's office described as a Minneapolis-based group led by the left boogeyman known as Antifa. Prosecutors say this case centers on 2 incidents at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building. That's where ICE's local headquarters are at. That's where you see all of those videos of clashes between protesters and DHS officers. And it's where protesters took part in blockades on January 23rd and on March 1st. Now, if you only listen to the press conference, you might think that prosecutors had uncovered some organized domestic terror cell. Rosen repeatedly used words like violence, conspiracy, Antifa, lawlessness. But when reporters pressed him on what federal agents had actually suffered, the answers got a lot less clear. Let's listen.
But how is DOJ, how do you define Antifa? What is Antifa?
So what is Antifa goes beyond, I think, the scope of what this indictment is. But what we can tell you is that we have plenty of people that self-identify in that way, and you might want to ask them that question.
Is that a crime to be part of affiliating with this group, if it is even a group?
It's a crime to conspire for the purpose of impeding or injuring federal officers. It's a crime to conspire together in order to commit crimes of violence. It's a crime to get together to stalk. It's a crime to get together to make threats. It's a crime to get together to assault federal officers. It's a crime to get together to destroy federal property. Yes, property. Yes.
Stock crimes. How many officers were injured or actually assaulted as a result of these misdeeds?
I'm sorry. I'm not sure that anything I just said is a thought crime. I don't think. I'm not following the question. Yes,
How
ma'am.
many were injured? How many of these officers were injured as a result of these alleged actions? That was the question there.
So again, all of the numbers on this will all roll out in the course of the prosecution. But you understand here that we have a group of people who quite deliberately got together, planned violence, used violence. And whether or not the extent to which they actually achieved their ends of harming people, whether it was by the overturning of vehicles and RVs in the street, whether it was by the throwing of ice blocks at vehicles, whether it was by use of their vehicles in other ways, whether it was by their stalking, whether or not they actually at the end of the day caused bodily harm is not the measure of whether or not they committed a serious federal crime. And I would dare say, we just cannot have in this country all people getting together, engaging in all of these violent acts, and then simply saying, well, nobody got hurt, so how bad could it have been? Yes, ma'am.
Gosh, Xander, I mean, I agree with him on some of that. Like, in fact, if I were just listening to him describe that people deliberately got together and planned violence and destroyed federal property, I might think he was talking about something else.
Especially because you'd be able to answer the question, well, what violence are you talking about?
When
you say violence, as you're referencing and winking at January 6th, it's a pretty easy question to answer. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, sure is.
The harm, I think, how many people died on that day? 5 people died on January 6th.
5 in total.
Countless officers were injured, many terribly.
Terribly.
Yeah. Throwing of ice blocks, it wasn't compelling. I don't know. I felt compelled to.
Well, and the thing is
that
yeah, if there was violence, unprovoked violence, we don't want that, right? I think people can agree that violence is not a good thing. But here's the whole point: we have how many videos of J6 showing us evidence of the violence and the injuries sustained, and what do they have? Zip ties and how many other things that looked like they were getting together to plan violence. I mean, someone erected gallows and they were chanting "Hang Mike Pence."
It felt violent over there. I'll say this: look,
I would love to see the video that they have of this, because I think Joy said it in the chat. Like, thankfully, we have great Minnesota journalists, and and I'm friends with a lot of them. Thankfully, we have them asking these questions because, yes, show us the evidence. Go ahead, Dan.
Look, no. I was just going to say, look, fascism doesn't announce itself. It's not binary, right? It doesn't go one day you're not in it and one day you are, and there's like a ticker tape parade to share that we are now living in a fascist country. It is a gradient, and one of the moves when you're moving into a stronger gradient of fascism is the subjective way in which the Justice Department is wielded. When it says, look, the real crime is not being aligned with me. It's not really what you're doing. It's not being aligned with me. And sometimes I think we don't do ourselves we do ourselves a disservice when we say it's like anti-ICE protests. These people would have been fine with ICE if they weren't acting as a military occupation of their city. It was an anti-military occupation and execution of citizens activations, not necessarily just against the federal government in a vacuum. I think that's important to express.
Yeah, and I think that it is. I just realized my mic. There we go. Maybe that's better. I think it's also important to note January 23rd. here's the thing. I flew to Minneapolis on January 24th. And what happened on January 23rd was a few days after Renee Good was killed. And then on January 24th is the day that Alex Preddy was murdered. And so, people were furious. People were outraged. People were grieving. People were just outright saying, this is not going to happen in our city, that huge ICE occupation. And they were arresting people without and jailing them without due process. We saw Kilmar Abrego Garcia deported without due process. So there's a lot here. And I think it's interesting to hear his comments and to think, what does that sound like? Because guess what? The people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th were pardoned. And now the president wants to give them payouts. So I think, yes, we don't want violence, and we're not going to do the whataboutism, but we need to keep that in mind when we talk here. So I want to pause and hammer home how the word Antifa is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Okay.
Yeah.
Antifa is known as what, Xander?
Anti-fascist. And while we're doing self-identifying, I am Antifa, anti-fascist. It's an idea. Many of us hold it. This entire movement holds it. You can give me a title in the false Antifa network or group if you want. It's a term for it's a shortening of the term anti-fascist that fits on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, and I've never seen any organized meetings or groups. I think the invitations keep getting lost with the invitations to join the Illuminati, because I've never seen them.
I would have between you and Minneapolis, me and Portland, we would have been attending these at this point if they were around for sure.
But no matter how many times we have to remind the administration what this word actually means, one thing that remains is that Antifa is still not a designated domestic terrorist organization under federal law, because there's actually no organization there. It's an ideal. Congress's own research has noted that the FBI investigates Antifa and other extremists, but does not designate any organization as a domestic terrorist organization. So part of the reason here, again, obvious, this is being part of an ideological movement, and that is not a crime in the United States. Antifa, widely described as decentralized. There's no single formal group here, but the lack of definition is not the only issue that these indictments stand up against. They are also landing in a moment when this same U.S. Attorney's Office has repeatedly failed to make these protest cases stick. Now, according to defense lawyers cited by the New York Times, about half of the 36 cases charging individual defendants with assaulting or interfering with federal agents during that Minnesota crackdown have already been dismissed. And this goes well beyond Minnesota. Just last month, federal prosecutors quietly abandoned the so-called Broadview 6 case in Chicago. That's after a judge uncovered what she described as unprecedented misconduct before the grand jury.
The latest fallout from yesterday's surprise decision by the U.S. Attorney's Office to drop all charges against the so-called Broadview 6 protesters. U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros is under fire after he admitted to mistakes made by his prosecutors. NBC5's Paris Schutz joins us now with more. Hi, Paris.
Hey, Natalie. Yeah, reaction pouring in from the legal and political worlds this evening, shocked at yesterday's events. And defense attorneys today filed an emergency motion. That's a signal that yesterday's mea culpa is not the end of this story.
I'm sick to my stomach as a former prosecutor.
Defense attorney Chris Parenti files an emergency motion today requesting prosecutors involved in the Broadview 6 case preserve all communications about their grand jury proceedings. It comes one day after U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros dropped all charges against the defendants who were arrested after protests outside the Broadview ICE facility last September. Boutros admitted errors in the grand jury process and then acknowledged prosecutors redacted whole pages of transcripts that described those errors. But newly unsealed transcripts from a tense hearing with Judge April Perry yesterday reveal those indiscretions. Prosecutors allegedly vouched for the case in front of grand jurors, a distinct no-no. They allegedly communicated with a juror outside the courtroom and excused grand jurors who disagreed with prosecutors wanting to bring charges. Judge Perry responds that the indiscretions, quote, shocked her. Quote, I have read hundreds, if not thousands of grand jury transcripts. I have never seen the types of prosecutorial behavior before a grand jury that I saw in those transcripts, she told prosecutors yesterday.
Oh boy. I mean, there's so much to talk about. This reminds me of
I feel like we need to can that soundbite from you.
oh
I'll replace
boy.
oh boy. Just whenever we have a moment like that. It's a
Well,
nice moment
because
decompression.
this is these headlines are like deja vu because we've heard this kind of stuff before. Do you remember the ICE attorney in Minneapolis who said she welcomed being held in contempt because she wasn't getting any sleep and that maybe she could rest? We saw just the botched handling from, I think it was Alina Habba and a lot of the prosecutions, the DOJ prosecutions against Comey and others. So here's the deal. Even after this misconduct came to light, and the charges were dropped, the people targeted by that prosecution were still left holding the bill because, as we know and we've talked about, part of the punishment is the process here. One of those defendants was former congressional candidate Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, who had just an incredible series of campaign videos, if you hadn't seen those. According to WTTW, Abu-Ghazaleh and her co-defendants racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal expenses just fighting charges that ultimately collapsed before trial. So today they're looking for reimbursement under the Hyde Amendment, and that's a federal law that would allow defendants to recover legal fees when prosecutors pursue cases in bad faith. Honestly, that's the part that gets lost in these stories, that when prosecutors hold a press conference, they announce a conspiracy, they put someone's face in the headlines, the damage doesn't simply just disappear because the case falls apart 6 months later. And again, the part of the punishment is putting people through all of this. That's part of the pain.
Totally. We like to celebrate these failed lawsuits and failed policies, and rightfully so. But we should know, oftentimes their intention is not to win them. They don't necessarily plan to win these lawsuits to win, to get the slush fund approved. They're oftentimes either trying to intimidate us from acting as good citizens and standing up for the Constitution, or they're winking at their allies or rewarding their allies in certain ways. And, to your point, the prosecution is punishment enough. Most of us don't want to go through that. Like, that would suck. Even if I come out victorious, you don't get anything. It's just months of hardship in your life. And so it's an effort to intimidate. Going back to that Antifa phase, it's important we all keep saying it. Like, it's important to remember, like, we keep ourselves safe. We are governed by consent. And when we move in mass, we keep ourselves safe because they cannot oppress us all. And this trick they're doing where they're using the term terrorism and trying to, is an old trick. It's an old trick. We knew they were going to go after nonprofits and organizing groups with this trick. We saw it in the 70s. The Black Panthers, 60s and 70s, Black Panthers were dismantled, because a group that, yes, did have a the police unit that was engaged in violence at times to protect their communities from the systemic violence that they were facing, also had after school programs and whatnot too. And so this whole movie, we've seen versions of it before. It's a little more in our face than past versions, but we've seen it before. And it's so important that we remember we keep each other safe, and that this whole effort and the efforts like them are about intimidating us so we don't keep each other safe.
And I think a really effective thing to do when you hear people talk about Antifa and blindly throw this kind of stuff out is kind of to take after what Jordan Klepper does so masterfully on, I think it's Comedy Central, where he says, well, what is Antifa? What is that? What does that mean to you? And try to understand, because I think that might at least start a dialogue. All right. Should we move from abuse to waste?
I'm ready. I want to say Jessica said millions of us Antifa supporters need to flood the streets and show those hypocrites how many support anti-fascism. Thank you, Jessica. And I want to bring up before we moved on, Just Tan, Not Orange said these crooked MAGA lawyers need to be disbarred. That's not an effort we've funded yet. That hasn't been a weekly mission of ours, the disbarment of Trump attorneys, but it feels like it could be a real, like we think about also on our end, what could be what could create a cooling effect for his allies. That's why, we do boycotts of certain companies. We're not going to boycott every company every week, but if we boycott one strong enough, the other ones might say, hey, I don't want to be aligned with this administration. The disbarment thing is a really, I've heard this come up, this idea float a lot. I don't know if there's an actual concerted effort on that front. Do you know of one, Maritza?
I don't, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people who've asked that same question who are smarter legal minds than us two.
That I'm putting that down to search for a weekly mission that's focused on the disbarment of the attorneys that are bringing these frivolous lawsuits. It's really brilliant.
No, and there's a long list of them. And this is something that we have seen how many countless former DOJ officials say they're completely weaponizing the DOJ as the president tries to still claim that Biden weaponized the DOJ against him. I mean, it feels, I don't know. It feels so strange. So much deflection there. Okay, let's move on to, Sarah says Glenn Kirshner or Katie Fang. I agree. Those two would be great to ask about this.
We just had Glenn on yesterday. We missed opportunity. I'll have to reach back out to him. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sad I missed it. I love Glenn and Katie. They're both friends. They're amazing. They're amazing people, amazing lawyers, super smart, and both really funny. Okay, let's move on to waste. If you've been watching the show for any length of time, you know that we talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And nowhere were we supposed to see efficiency more visible than the reflecting pond, the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C., right? The administration spent roughly $14 million renovating this ahead of America's 250th birthday celebrations. I'm sure you saw the photos of the crews painting it with rollers, American flag blue. Trump bragged about it repeatedly. The White House bragged about it repeatedly. And then less than a week later, this happened.
I'm here at the newly renovated reflecting pool. It's painted American flag blue. And the Democrats are going to tell you, oh, there's green algae. It looks so bad.
I'd ask for my money back because, I mean, if it was supposed to look blue, it's pretty green right now. So, I don't know. I'd ask for a refund or something. I feel bad for, like I said, I feel bad for the poor guy over here with a broom who's trying to brush
Mercedes,
the
can you
entire,
pause it?
reflecting pool back to the same color.
I'm here at the...
Was this guy really on Fox News, or was that a bit? The pool's like bright green behind him. Is he?
I think the first guy was. Oh wait, is she gonna do the voice of God thing?
Voice of God.
Yes, he was on Fox News.
That's incredible.
So then I slash cut it. Yeah, with the other.
Amazing. Emperor has no clothes. In action.
Yeah, I mean this is the thing. Oh my gosh, let me keep going through Mercedes notes. Okay, so let's start here. The guy in the last part who was cleaning the pool, we do feel bad for him. But then we actually found a photo of who it was that was cleaning the reflecting pool. Do we have that, Mercedes? Oh, maybe not. Oh yeah, there it is. Marco Rubio.
Rubio. He gets all the jobs.
He gets all of the best
for the administration.
But he's from Florida. I'm sure he knows what he's doing with the pool. Okay, joking aside, we need to discuss how the administration is tackling this mean green problem. Okay, today workers were spotted pouring hydrogen peroxide directly into the water. To be fair, hydrogen peroxide can help kill algae. I actually brought my bottle because I use it. I rinse with it because it's a great teeth whitener, right? But don't swallow it.
I've been using it all wrong. I was pouring it on wounds. I was told that's a terrible idea.
Oh, really? I do that too. We don't do that?
It dries it out. It doesn't help your body recover. Yeah. I learn something every day. I know.
Well, here's the thing. Chemistry is great. I wasn't great at chemistry in high school, but the problem here is not chemistry because this pool holds roughly 6.75 million gallons of water.
It's a lot.
It gets better. One physician who saw the footage ran the numbers and estimated that you would need roughly 8,000 liters of 12% hydrogen peroxide. I think mine's only 3%. Anyway, you would need 8,000 liters of 12% hydrogen peroxide just to reach the concentration normally used to kill algae in a body of water that size. I actually read that a spokesperson for the Interior Department says, don't worry, they installed a treatment system called a nano bubbler. Whatever that is, it'll be gone in no time, a nano bubbler. And if this were, it does sound great. It sounds like something I'd see, the Marvel universe at Disneyland. If that were the only story involving waste today, we'd probably just stop there, okay? But it's not. Because while the administration was dumping peroxide into the reflecting pool, another problem Doge declared a waste of money last year is now crawling back across the southern border. Do we want to say anything more about the algae before we tell this story?
I mean, I guess to the Trump administration, I think there's more industrial sized peroxide bottles. Those were like straight from CVS, gang.
CVS or Walgreens.
I'm sure you can buy it on wholesale and save us some money.
Oh, Deborah makes a good point, and I'm a big animal lover. If any animals drink from that pool, they're going to die. That's right. There are so many ducks who swim in that.
What a metaphor. Isn't that one of the plagues? Isn't it like animals falling from the sky at one point? Yeah. That's the stage we're at, gang. Which day is that?
They need a bigger bubbler. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, shoot. We need, I'm suddenly very concerned about the birds and the ducks. Okay. Right. So let's move on.
New Defiance mission, save the DC ducks. I'll write it down. I'll put it next to the, disbarment campaign.
I have a yes, if it involves animal welfare, I'm all in. I'm all in about that. Okay, so unlike the algae, this other problem, Xander, has teeth, or technically larvae. So last year, Doge targeted a federal program that monitored and contained the New World Screwworm. That's kind of hard to say. This is a flesh-eating parasite. It lays eggs in open wounds.
Don't like that.
No, don't like that at all. Hard no. Hard pass for me. Okay. It can devastate livestock populations. So at the time, right-wing media just mocked this program. In fact, Newsmax even openly suggested that spending $300 million producing sterile flies sounded like exactly the kind of thing that Doge should eliminate. But the problem is that this program existed for a reason. It's like taking medication and saying, well, I don't have that problem anymore. I should just stop taking it. Well, you don't have that problem because you're taking the medication for it. The problem here is that for decades, the United States maintained a protective barrier stretching through Central America by releasing these sterile male flies and monitoring outbreaks before they could move north, okay? And the strategy here worked so well that the screwworm had effectively just been eradicated from the United States. Then the funding got cut by Doge. So the monitoring stopped. The worms are back. This is a huge problem. And according to federal agricultural officials, confirmed cases have now climbed to 12 across Texas and New Mexico. It's affecting cattle, goats, dogs. And Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller said that the outbreak should set off alarm bells across the country. And he's not exaggerating here because the U.S. cattle herd is already at its lowest level in 75 years, and a major outbreak could not only kill livestock, but also restrict cattle movement, raise beef prices even further, could cause billions of dollars in economic damage, which really brings us to the real waste. After Doge helped eliminate a $300 million screwworm monitoring and containment program, the USDA is now spending roughly $750 million on a new Texas facility to produce hundreds of millions of sterile screwworm flies every week. So we are already spending about $450 million more than the program that they mocked and eliminated. But Xander, do you know what the USDA estimates the economic damage from a major outbreak could be? We're going to use Price is Right rules. Give us a number.
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like I'm so tainted now by all the crazy shit Trump's doing. Is it 2 billion? Is it 5 billion? What do we get?
Oh. Well, your first guess was right, except for I think the Price is Right rules say you can't go over, right? So you lose. 1.8 billion.
All right.
So I mean, yeah,
more than 300 million. I checked the math. It's a lot more.
It's a lot more. My dog apparently would love to join us. She keeps running in here and barking. So I
Worried about the
apologize,
screwworms.
everybody. Dolly is not happy about the screwworms. And Mercedes says she can't hear Dolly. Good. Sunil says it's time for us all to go vegan. I mean, here's the thing. Like, we keep hearing about this stuff. We heard about it with bird flu. We heard about it with so many issues, and we have eliminated not just programs, but I was reading about all of the jobs and positions that people held that were cut and eliminated by Doge that also help address something like a screwworm outbreak or an Ebola outbreak or you name it, not to mention USAID. Go ahead.
You know, this is frustrating, but it's also an indictment on like legacy DC and the Democrats that they just didn't explain the value of these programs. Like they didn't sell it. We didn't sell a lot of what we were doing. Like a lot of what we're dealing with right now is the Democrats acted like everything was just because it was a moral imperative and they moralized everything. And they didn't explain the transactional value to things like USAID, which does lots of these types of programs at the end of the day to stop global pandemics that would potentially come home. As part of like the why, on top of it being a good thing to do in the world, there was a massive transactional value as we see right now. 300 million, a lot less than 1.8 billion. And there's a lot of pain and suffering that you're preventing. Frederick Douglass has a great quote that's like, it's easier to raise strong boys than heal broken men. This is also like the programs and what they're trying to do. Prevention is cheaper than getting your arms around a crisis. But like we didn't sell it. And the Democrats acted like large groups of voters basically had Stockholm syndrome and they were like stuck with their kidnapper and they couldn't go anywhere and stop asking questions why and stop complaining. And so, you know, this is as much as it is frustrating. You know, it's frustrating how Trump governs for sure. I think we've settled that. It's very frustrating. He's a very damaging guy. It's every time we hear these stories, we have to reflect on like, how did we get here? How did we get people to not understand why we made these investments? How do we get so many people to say, what the fuck are we doing? We're not spending any more money. Let's keep it at home. Because we didn't explain how it was good for home. And so we need to keep this in mind as we move forward and keep selling why our programs, our various programs are good for people. It's good to build a social safety net because you'll have less crime and then you won't be harmed. And it's less expensive than all the personal security shit that you have to do. Private school is more expensive than just paying your fair share and having a good public education system. It is good for you. Okay, monologue over.
All right. Yeah, we have to go to Kurt, to our guest here. Kurt is here in the room.
All
but
right.
yeah, I think it's all a really great, really great thing that you're saying, because we do need to be better. Everyone needs to be better. We all need to understand things in a clearer way. And we can't really be using jargon that people don't understand to explain it. We have to talk to people like they're real people. And I think a lot of politicians miss the mark there. Okay, so we have covered abuse. We have covered waste. But we haven't covered yet, well, maybe a little fraud, because when Doge first arrived in Washington, we were told that the mission was simple: root out corruption, save taxpayer dollars. 1 year later, we are looking at 2 stories that show that this fraud and corruption is alive more than ever. So to help us break it all down, we are joined by the author of the Watchdog Report, one of our favorite corruption trackers, our friend, Kurt Bardella. Hey, Kurt.
Oh. What's up, Kurt?
I'm happy to step aside and watch you do your monologues because, man, you hit the nail on the head there, brother.
Yeah. Well, we vibe for a reason when we were at State of the Swamp together, man. I miss you. That was such a good time hanging with you over there.
Oh, it was awesome to be surrounded by so many enlightened, like-minded people who understand that right now we're in a fucking ballroom brawl. This is not Robert's Rules of Order anymore.
Hey, Kurt, your sound's a little, I don't know if it's Mercedes or us, but your sound's a little down for us. Folks are saying they can't hear you.
In some way. We want people to definitely hear me.
Yeah, I mean, unless we're doing like an ASMR episode, you're just going to whisper talk to us.
Very softly.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, maybe get closer to the mic. That's better, Kurt. If you can get a little closer. Hey, great.
Every once in a while, you get lucky enough to get the voice of God, Mercedes, giving us tips. Voice of God, are you there? What should we?
Do you hear me?
Oh, that's a little better. There we go.
Yeah.
If you just talk in that voice the whole time, we're good.
I'll just use the voice of God voice. That's clearly what is called for in these times.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay, so Kurt, great to see you. We want to talk with you first about the biggest story of the day, because for months, you just mentioned it, the ballroom brawl. Donald Trump has been promising a massive new White House ballroom that time after time after time he has insisted taxpayers will not be paying for. In fact, he said it so many times, we're going to save ourselves some time and just play you a little clip.
Didn't ask for any tax money. We have no tax. This is taxpayer free. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents. This is all my money and donors' money. This is tax free. So everyone's talking about they're going to give money. They're going to give money. You've been so generous in your contributions. Very substantial money, fully financed. It's fully taken care of now. And in fact, we'll have money left over, and we'll use that for something. I always said I was going to do something about the ballroom because they should have one. So we'll be leaving it. It'll be a great legacy project, and I think it'll be special. You saw some renderings of the initial. I think it'll be really beautiful.
No government dollars at all.
No government dollars, no.
And it should be something that's bipartisan. The ballroom is totally privately funded. The president has dedicated like $400 million for that project.
Okay, so we've heard it a lot. And the reason that clip really matters so much is because today, the Washington Post has new reporting out that says that roughly $300 million in federal funds have now been committed to the project. And also, P.S., it's now expected to cost $600 million. I remember, I think it was $200 million at the very beginning. So, Kurt, like, what stands out to you about all of this?
You know, it reminds me of one of the original lies way back when, which was we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it.
I thought you were going to say Santa.
I mean, we'll take it. We'll take. Do you know him? No.
I just wonder, I got in as a longtime local news person, you got to be real careful about who might be in the room when jokes are made about that topic.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the wall. That was a better example.
Let's go back to the wall.
Let's leave Santa out of this, frankly. He's better than that. But that check from Mexico, as far as I'm aware, has never materialized to build said wall. And this president has a tendency of making ginormous promises involving large sums of money that don't ever seem to come through fruition. Some might call it fraud. I'm not calling it fraud. Some might call it fraud. A lot of people are calling it fraud. A lot of people are calling it false advertising. A lot of people are calling it a grift. For the Republicans like Speaker Mike Johnson to stand up there, peddle this nonsense, and then, as it turns out, it's not all paid for. It's not free. Nothing in the world, by the way, is free. It's going to cost taxpayers a couple $100 million. No big deal. Let's move on to the next topic. That's not going to fly. Number one, Congress is supposed to, in theory, it exists to appropriate taxpayer dollars. That's why their entire existence was defined by the Constitution, by the framers. Two, how are they paying for this with taxpayer dollars if no money has been passed for this specific project earmarked for it? I have a lot of questions about the legality of using taxpayer dollars for something that was never supposed to happen in the first place. And finally, this is where Democrats need to step up and bridge some gaps here. And what I mean by that, and it goes into a little bit what you were talking about how Democrats have been so horrible, let's call it for what it is, at messaging things that are important and why they matter. The reason why we can't afford healthcare in America is because we're taking your money and spending it on a ballroom. The reason why we don't have paid family leave America, why the minimum wage has been increased in forever, why we don't have more resources to deal with low income housing, food deserts in this country. 1 in 5 American children are food insecure is because they're taking your money your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, and they're spending it on ballrooms. They're spending it on themselves. They're spending on tax breaks for their billionaire bros and buddies. That's why we are in the condition we are in. Democrats have got to do this, and Senator John Ossoff does a great job of doing this, of the cause and effect. It's not just that there's corruption. It's not just that there's fraud and abuse. It's not just that the president makes promises that aren't true about your money. It's that they then take your money and use it for other things that aren't benefiting you.
Here's something too. Oh, sorry, Xander. I
One
stepped
at
on
a
you.
time.
Sorry, I stepped on his toes. But I feel passionately about this because this came out because of reporting from the Washington Post, right? And because of internal documents and contracts uncovered by dogged reporters. And this is a perfect example of why journalism in the fourth estate matters so much, because those internal documents show that some of these things were known from the beginning, like that there would be taxpayer dollars spent on this. And we saw just in that clip how many people say no, 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 lying to the American people. And without the fourth estate holding them accountable, who will?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why, more than any other time in recent history that I can recall, independent journalism that is separate from corporate media, that is separate from any financial interest, that is able to operate on its own without any political agendas leaning on them, is so important. And you know, I get so frustrated when I see, and I've been talking a lot about this, billionaires like Tom Steyer, who ideologically, there are a lot of things I agree with him on, by the way. I fully support his climate agenda that he spent a lot of time talking about. But I get frustrated when I see him dump $200 million to run, to come in third in a Democratic primary in California. It's like, you know, those type of resources, if you have them and you're a Democrat, you could amplify, elevate, support independent media so that we can have more journalism like that happening. I mean, there's so much corruption out there. There's not enough pages in the paper to fill with all the stories that could be told right now. And this is a time where I'd like to see our side. You know, we know Republicans are really good at this. We see MAGA media galloping and just scooping up, consolidating media left and right so that they can control their narrative. I'd like to see our side commit those resources to support the defiance.org, to support independent people like Jim Acosta, Katie Fang, Scott McFarland. Like, there are so many people who want to tell the truth. And if we invested in them, just a fraction of what we're seeing some of these people invest in themselves to lose, we might be further ahead in the game of exposing a lot of these things. Like what the Washington Post did is great. There is a place for legacy media. Let me be clear. I am not an enemy of legacy media. I support as much of it as we can, but the reality is, the corporate reality that we're seeing is it is on life support. Independent legacy media is not going to exist anymore because they're going to have a corporate owner, a board of directors, shareholders, political interests that they're going to have to be wary of. These people break these stories, and I guarantee you right now we're about to see Donald Trump probably start tweeting why Jeff Bezos' Washington Post is doing what they're doing. They should be fired, blah, 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 blah. We're going to need independent media.
Totally. I mean, you're talking about Steyer's 200 million. How about Elon Musk's 40 billion to buy Twitter? Like, they're buying the infrastructure and changing the algorithms. Ellison with TikTok, Musk with Twitter, not to mention, CBS and some of the legacy you mentioned, Bezos in Washington Post, some of the legacy media groups as well. We were reporting on the 300 billion we might give to Iran.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and I had this feeling, when you're like close to it, like something like a Monet, and then you back up and it all comes into focus. I was like, oh, I've seen this movie before. It's not just the grift, it's also who's getting paid. It's Halliburton. This is not like, if they seem like they're doing nonsensical building projects that are costing billions of dollars, guess who's going to get those contracts?
Yeah,
this feels like I am having deja vu. Are you, Kurt?
Yeah, when you see a dollar figure like that, and it's supposed to go to a redevelopment of Iran, who do you think's going to be doing that developing, and who do you think has vested financial interests in people who are going to receive those dollars? I mean, we're already seeing it happen here in our own government. We're seeing the Trump family invest in companies that are getting somehow magically sweetheart government contracts, no bid contracts where they've never gotten government work for, and then they see their valuations go through the roof, and the people are laughing all the way to the bank. This is why, again, I think that every dollar that is spent by this administration needs to be heavily scrutinized, heavily followed. When and if Democrats take back the reins of power in Congress, particularly, and have those investigative powers and subpoena authority, able to have hearings, depositions, etc., they need to use it to follow the money. Like that should be objective number one. You cannot cure the cancer until you've rooted it all out. And I look at the totality of how much is out there publicly already that we know about. I can only imagine what we don't know.
Right. It's such a great point. This is what they do brazenly. What's happening behind closed doors. I also think there's a point to be made about the figures we're talking about, because just like the flood the zone tactics work with overwhelming us with crazy news stories, I think that we've become so cavalier, like, oh, 200 million, 200 billion. It's so Elon Musk is a trillionaire now. And I had a guest on my show with John Tester this morning, Justin Wolfers, the economist, and he did the math, you guys. And he said that Elon Musk bought the 2024 presidential election with only 0.026% of his wealth. And after that, if future elections come with a similar price tag, he can afford to purchase another 3,819 elections. I mean, if you actually break down those numbers and think about them, it's stunning and shocking. And we just get so, I don't know, glazed over when we hear those numbers, because they don't mean anything to us anymore, but it's huge money.
Might as well be monopoly money, right? It's like an unfathomable amount, which is why, again, I go back to Democrats need to do the job of saying, hey, this 300 billion right here, we could have the 300 best schools built in the history of mankind with that money. That 300 billion over here, that could be the down payment on paid family leave we've been waiting for. That could be the difference of taking the minimum wage and making a living wage in this country.
Yes.
That could be 300,000 small businesses that we're able to invest in and give real tax breaks to. That could be the thing that gets your kid, going to a school that's actually safe, because we were able to defeat the gun lobby and have true common sense gun reform in this country. Like, we got to make it relatable, and we got to do the cause and effect. This amount of money equals this over here. This is why this is happening. Here's what it's costing you. $300 billion. Imagine what that can mean in terms of, creating a fund that gives grants out so you can afford a down payment on a house in America. Well, what that can mean for health savings accounts, what that can mean for prescription drug costs. Like, I can think of about 300 million ways to spend that money that's better than what we're currently using it on.
Not only better, Kurt, and I know I was getting to this point earlier also, but also, like, there's an ROI. It's not 300 billion on a ballroom remains 300 billion, or 300 million, excuse me, on a ballroom remains 300 million in child education means you're dealing with less crime. It means you're dealing with higher income earners, right? Like, there is an ROI to this. Sometimes when we even talk about, like, the price, we treat the expense and the ROI like two different things to chat about. Like, we are net positive on these types of investments, and we just need to make the case clearly that is not 300, that those numbers aren't created equally. 300 million just sits there in that ballroom. That is gone. We're not getting anything for it. And the things you're mentioning, there's a massive ROI on the other side of it. And so
that's true. That's right.
And just as we talked about jargon, I'm just going to remind people ROI stands for return on investment. All right.
So, I weirdly have a finance degree, so I do that.
Yeah, but I don't.
I'm sorry.
And my friends don't. Okay. So while that story was, I need to go back to college for sure. While that story was getting most of the attention today, there's another one that landed that struck us as a different kind of corruption story I want to bring up with you, Kurt, because Congressman Jamie Raskin is now demanding answers from FBI Director Kash Patel after receiving reports that Patel may have directed more than $1 million in bonus payments to a select group of FBI personnel. These are bonus payments. Now, according to Raskin's letter, some agents allegedly received payments approaching $8,000 every 2 weeks, some collecting nearly $40,000 over a series of pay periods. $40,000 is more than a lot of people make where I live here in Montana in a year. What makes the story noteworthy isn't simply the size of the payments, it's who allegedly received them. According to Raskin, the bonuses went to members of Patel's director's advisory team and agents assigned to his personal security detail. And Raskin is now demanding records showing who received the payments, why they received them, whether the awards complied with federal compensation rules here. And to be clear, these are allegations. Patel has not publicly responded yet. But Kurt, is this going onto your tracker?
Yeah, I mean, you better believe it will, because again, the American people have a right to know how their money is being spent. There is no right to privacy when you talk about taxpayer dollars. And let's call them, it's not bonuses, they're bounties. You know, you're doing Kash Patel's bidding and being rewarded outside of your set compensation schedule, which in the federal government, for those of us who don't know, there is a set schedule of what each tier and what level you are. It's called the GS scale. And if you are a GS 14, you set this amount. Going above that, just discretionarily throwing money at people for undefined metrics, not how taxpayer dollars are supposed to be spent. That is abuse of taxpayer dollars at best, corrupt at worst. These are exactly the types of things. Again, I've said all along, the playbook for Democrats has got to be follow the money. Wherever it went, wherever it was dispersed to, that's what we need to expose. And this type of thing, it begs the question: what are these people doing in exchange for these bounties? That needs to be unearthed, brought to light. There needs to be public hearings, and every single person who got a bonus needs to be asked under oath: why did you get that money? What was the expectation for continuing to receive said money? And what exactly did you do with it?
Kurt, can I ask a follow-up there?
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of nuance to that advice. Like, how should Democrats message that? Because sometimes you see us get too abstract and we get away from kitchen table issues. And I think sometimes the grift, if you don't message it correctly, can move in that direction. How do you think our political leaders, on the pro-democracy side, should be talking about that specifically to make sure it doesn't fall into that? This is all, to Maritza's point earlier, like 300 billion, 400 million, like it's all like, this is all too much for me to fully grasp, and it feels like both sides do this. How do we talk about this in the best way possible?
Yeah, and this is where the amount actually helps tell the story, because most of us can wrap our arms around $8,000 every 2 weeks. Like, that would be very meaningful to most American families, right? That is more than the average American family makes in a month. The average American family makes about $5,000 a month. These guys are getting $8,000 on top of their already set government salary. And so I think that the way you talk about this is, if you're Democrats, it's simple math. It's the average American family is being asked to do more with less in this country because of Trump tariffs, because of the price of gas, the cost of living is going up. Meanwhile, they're doling out secret bonuses to their cronies with your taxpayer dollars, and they're trying to hide the reason why. That's not right. We would be better off giving that money to you, to the American families, working families in this country, not to cronies doing Kash Patel's bidding in private, in secret. And I think it's like secret slush fund. People kind of get an idea of what that is. And again, it's the dollar amount and contrasting it with what the average American really has in their bank account right now.
It's just such a great point, because you're right. We can wrap our arms around $8,000. That's a heck of a lot of money. Yeah. And I mean, people are making very, very hard decisions right now. So Kurt, I just, for our audience who doesn't know, tell us about your tracker. Tell us about your watchdog report.
Yeah, I used to work at the House Oversight Committee for Republicans back during the Obama years, so I understand congressional investigations, corruption, waste, fraud, abuse. I helped write that playbook for Republicans back in the day when they believed in those things. So I started the Watchdog Report on Substack for the purpose of calling out exactly what the agenda should be for Democrats in tracking down waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, what the list should be of targets of investigations, and where they should start if they take back power, and exposing what's going on right now that this administration is doing to keep the scales tipped in their favor. Right now, I talked about it this morning on MS Now. The Trump administration has directed the Postmaster General to basically not allow mail ballots to go out if states don't turn over their voter rolls to them. Like that is a massive overreach that could have tremendous repercussions. They are going to be allowed, the post office, to determine whether you get your mail-in ballot or not, whether you're qualified to get it or not. This could result in millions of voters not being able to participate in the midterm election. And I guarantee you, if they're trying it now, it is a dress rehearsal for 2028. That's why calling out this stuff right now matters.
100%. 100%. Kurt, I wonder, I was reading a note on Substack about this earlier, and it rang true to me. And I wonder how we get out of this. Feels like we're almost in a vicious cycle here in America where people aren't getting much for their taxes that they spend. And therefore they say, well, I might as well keep it. Like people in Finland maybe pay a bit more, but they're getting transportation they use all the time. They're getting, a healthcare system that they utilize. And we've almost privatized those expenses in our lives, right? Like we think our car payment's inevitable. We think our healthcare insurance is an inevitable expense and whatnot. And I feel like there's so many people in the MAGA coalition that would benefit so greatly by our social programs, but have lived a life where they've gotten so little for their taxes, and on top of it, their private, economic lives have their prospects as workers has decreased as well. How do we make the case for that? Like the thing we were just laying out there, and then I know you got to go, but I just want to ask you that one more time because I think you're so brilliant on messaging at times. The thing we just made the case for about return on investment, about where this money could go, and why you should fight for it to go to those places. How do we leap over that kind of barrier of belief that many Americans have now?
Yeah, I mean, there is something to you gotta put up at some point, or people are going to tune out. It's the reason why we're okay paying sales tax. Like when I buy something at the store, I'm taking that item home with me. I know what I just purchased. It is in my hand. It's tangible. The problem with a lot of things that we fight for as Democrats, they're kind of intangible. We want to create more opportunities for the disenfranchised, for low income, for minorities. Well, that doesn't mean a whole lot to just somebody living in suburban, Texas, I'll say in this case, since that's where I am right now. So how do we make it real? And I think the way that you make things real to people, that is the universal language, is you talk about it through the lens of your kids. We all understand what it means to invest in our children's future. Those of us who are parents live that reality every day. The daily touch points of our lives are, getting our kids to school, which requires you to be in a vehicle, which requires you to fill up the tank of gas, which requires you to keep that car maintained and have the maintenance on it. Getting our kids to school supplies, the uniforms, the clothes that they need, the football cleats, the basketball jersey, the registration fee to play for at the summer camp. I think that Democrats have got to connect the dots and talk about the agenda in a way of like, we want your taxpayer dollars to go to help fund those after school programs, to help keep your classroom safe, to make sure your kids have laptops in every classroom in America so that they learn technology, so that they are prepared to enter the workforce that we currently are going to be in going forward. Everything, in my opinion, messaging wise, should always be broken down to families and kids, because that is the most relatable, bipartisan, nonpartisan place to meet people. I would say you have to meet people where they are. Most people in this country, they're living a day-to-day life of just literally trying to get their kids where they need to be on time without losing our minds. Like that's all we're trying to do. And at the end of the day, maybe have enough in the tank to consume a little bit of information about what's going on in the world before the cycle starts all over again. That's where we need to take our messaging is to reach those people. We got to have those people in mind when we're trying to figure out what to say and how to say it and how to sell it.
Beautiful advice. Beautiful.
Such a great point. I'm sorry if I look distracted. If John Tester can't get a hold of me, he just calls over and over and over again. So I have FaceTime. I just sent him the link. Maybe he'll join us. All right.
Former members are so needy, man. I tell you that.
Yeah, it's just like my mom. I mean, they just like call over and over.
It's
all
also
right,
a generation thing. Boomers. I'm telling you.
Okay, so Kurt, we just want to say thank you so much. I didn't realize you had the Substack. Me personally, and I'm friends with you, so I just went and subscribed. Everyone go subscribe. It's incredible. Thank you for the work you're doing. That's the Watchdog Report on Substack.
Yep, and as I said again, I'm literally leaving right now to go watch my kids' summer camp basketball game.
Yeah,
All right,
no.
beautiful.
Gotta go
Have
do
fun,
it.
dude.
I hope that
That's
I
awesome.
hope that her team wins. All right, thanks so much, Kurt.
See you guys.
We have a question in the chat. What's the Australian economist we had on this morning? Yes, we had Justin Wolfers on my show Grounded with John Tester this morning, and he's so fabulous. You have to go subscribe to him too. It's called Platypus Economics, and his whole goal is to help us all understand economics better so that we can understand these news cycles better and we can understand what's at stake, like Kurt was just talking about with you, Xander.
All right. Well, I'm. That's the most Australian sounding company.
The platypus,
ever.
platypus economics. There's a great story too behind why he named that, because it's like what? So weird.
It's a confusing thing.
The point that he makes is, economics is weird. So why not name it something weird? Okay. So finally today, we want to thank our friend Kurt, but we want to jump into right now who's joining the Defiance. And today we're looking at those providing a service that ICE agents so desperately need. And that, my friends, is career coaching. Let's watch.
Some job postings to ICE. Maybe they can get another job somewhere else.
The Gateway Group 1 in Kearney, New Jersey is hiring security officers. It only pays $22 an hour, but you won't hate yourself.
We're trying to give them other jobs to get.
I work as a job coach.
Oh, really? Oh my God,
Oh, wait.
She works as a job coach.
I'm a job coach. I'll edit your resume for free.
You edit resumes?
We have a young lady here who is a job coach who can help you out.
I will edit your resume for free. I will be dedicated. I will help you find a better fucking job. I swear to God. You just have to quit. Don't sell your soul. Don't be Nazis. That's all I ask.
I mean, legitimately, we can form a small line, or maybe we can exchange email.
We already made a line, actually.
Yeah, you're in line.
Yeah,
you just angle yourselves a little bit.
I might as well just take down their name and number and info.
The help is here when you need it. Mobile lead X-ray technologist.
That's $40 to $8 an hour to start.
And you don't have to kill anyone for that job.
And legitimately, your children will respect you instead of fearing you. Next time you guys do that stomp forward, just grab us like you're gonna tear gas us, and just whisper in our ear like, hey bro, help me with my resume.
I need those guys to come to my house and give me some ideas for some jobs. What a great service. Those agents can say what they want, but I think if your job makes you prompt something like this, that you have to cower behind a mask 24/7, maybe, we should think about getting another job, especially when someone shows up and says, hey, let me help you do this. I also there was another woman in Minnesota who would go up and just try to hug them. Can I give you a hug?
Both those things actually work. They both have a lot of historical analogies where they work. Like there is in, I think, what was it, Poland, where they put the flowers in the guns? Was that Poland or Portugal? I'm forgetting. In Philippines, they used to, because the defectors were worried about punishment, they would circle around them and protect them. If they defected, they would pull them into their into their circle and protect them. So they're saying it facetiously, I mean, somewhat earnestly, but facetiously. But really, stopping oppression is oftentimes about outpitching the oppressor. As a society, that we've got a better deal for you, where you don't have to do this. When we used to shut down prisons, we would have to, one of the things you would do is go to the COs and try to make sure they had better jobs, because that was your biggest battle, is the unionized COs. Because oftentimes in these towns, the prison system is the jobs, is a lot of the good jobs in those towns too. And so you'd have to find a way to find better employment for them. So we're saying facetiously, but it's not wrong. Hurting people is bad for the soul, but for a lot of people, and this is true in policing or when it comes to correctional officers in jails, they come from the same neighborhoods as the people we're oppressing. We've seen that. We've been surprised by that. When there's an ICE shooting, we've seen, oh my God, this guy's actually Latino too. We've seen it over and over again, that these people are from the same communities. Sorry.
There is a conversation to be had, and you and I get going on these, how do we solve this kind of things? We have these phone calls, you guys, and it's we should just make these phone calls an episode or a live, because they really are such interesting conversations. Xander's full of brilliant ideas, but something that someone said to me once, and it really resonated, because I used to work for a TV station, and it was bought up by Sinclair Broadcasting. Okay. I was under contract. and I would have had to pay to leave my job. And there are so few other jobs in local media, it would have been really difficult. And something someone said to me that resonated because of that is that a lot of these people who go in and work for the government, whether they worked for DHS before or ICE, and maybe it was a different job description. Well, part of the reason they went to work for the US government is because there were long-term benefits. And the longer you stay in there, you vested interests. And so how do we create off-ramps for those folks who don't, I know there are DHS employees who don't want to be working there, and they feel so stuck because they don't know how to get out of it, and they don't have a backup plan. And so I think there are some bigger conversations to be had about that too.
Yeah, and we've been trying to, we were just talking about how to message it. One of the values of a social safety net is people are harder to coerce. You can't make them do shitty things, whether it's working for minimum wage at McDonald's or whether it's being an ICE agent that's part of an oppressive group that's hurting, immigrants across the country. A social safety net allows people to say no to employers because they're not going to die via poverty. And sometimes we try to separate the economics argument with the political argument. And we just talked about Elon Musk's ability to corrupt the entire country and buy election after election because we allow people to have that much wealth. We can talk just as easily about ICE agents who are easy to hire because people don't have any fucking money and they need money. And they come from communities where there's not a lot of opportunities. And so that continues to, Kurt was making the point, you were making the point, it needs to be a part of the conversation as we move forward. Because if we keep searching for the bad guys among us, it's a never ending journey as long as the incentives and the structures are the way they are.
And don't get me wrong, I think there are people who have joined because this provides some kind of sick joy. But I think I think that there are a lot of people who very much feel stuck. Mercedes is telling us to stop talking, move on.
Sorry, Mercedes.
No.
Dad's not here. We can party. We can party for a while. Miles is gone.
Glenn Kirshner, someone saw an interview of Glenn Kirshner measured job satisfaction of ICE agents at an all-time low, and I believe that.
It's not a fun job.
Believe that.
Mercedes, I'm promise I'm done after this, but just final note there. Police officers' average lifespan is 59. Correctional officers is 57. They die of depression and alcoholism and all sorts and suicide. These are not good jobs. These are terrible jobs that wear on your soul. Okay. What do we got tomorrow? Tomorrow, we're actually talking exactly about this. We're talking about defections on our weekly mission. We have an amazing weekly mission. I'm not going to scoop ourselves. Come tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific to check it out. But we've got a mission where we are going to try to drive defections in a very important area as it relates to the midterms. Maritza might know it pretty well. And so we're excited to talk about it. Fun stuff the rest of the week as well. But most importantly, show up tomorrow. It's the whole reason we built this thing. Missions, taking action, funding important organizations. So we'll see you tomorrow at 5. So you want to do a sign off? Or we got anything else to say?
I just want to respond. Somebody's asking what my shirt says. My other shirt.
Oh, yeah. Let them know.
My other shirt is a fake Peace Prize.
Such good stuff. All right.
Ray gun in Iowa. Go ahead.
Mercedes also saying Igor Isa has made printable defiance.org stickers, posters, and cards featuring Chris Palomino's Patriot frog art. Check the chat for the link. And Maritza, thank you so much for driving today, read out the news, let me to react and get in my feelings and all that stuff. I appreciate it.
We love when you get in your feelings. That's good.
Right on. All right, guys. As Miles would say then, until next time, stay together. No, hold on. We can do this. Stay loud, stay brave, stay together. We'll see you guys soon.